Goedemorgen allemaal. Good morning to you, Martin.
Morning.
Morten. Mijn naam is Jaap Kuipers. Ik heet jullie van hartelijk welkom bij deze sessie over wat wij kunnen leren uit Denemarken. Een aantal mensen heb ik net even de hand geschud. Diverse achtergrond. De NS met federatieve zaken, SIOT, universiteiten, Koninklijke Bibliotheek, ziekenhuis, gemeenten misschien. Zijn dat gemeenten dan? Hartelijk welkom. We gaan lessen leren. We moeten ons hele leven lang blijven leren om bij te blijven. Er gebeurt veel. We doen het in Nederlands en in het Engels. Maar Denen die verstaan Nederlands vrij goed, is het niet, Morten? Dus we kijken hoe we komen. Als jullie een vraag willen stellen in het Nederlands, ik vertaal het wel als je dat wilt. Eerst gaan we luisteren naar Martin. Die gaat vertellen over wat hij aan use cases heeft, wat we kunnen leren uit Denemarken. En na een half uur is er mogelijkheid voor interactie. In de tussentijd kunnen we ook wel wat vragen stellen. Maar als dat wat lang loopt, dan zeg ik nou parkeren we de vraag even voor daarna. So I switch to English.
Oh, thank you.
And what we can learn from Denmark. We are a little bit jealous of Denmark because a population of 6 million people, you are way ahead in e-government with like invoicing. You are quite self-sustained on energy, oil. You had this Eurovision Song Contest, so you had a huge party. And we are very interested to learn what you're doing on federations. Yesterday we had a small meeting, and I asked what kind of people you are. And you told me that you are passionate about identity management, and you've done a lot of work on federations. So now I'll tell you why I'm proud of the Netherlands. So I got a newspaper clipping, and it says the Netherlands is in the top 3 on international trade. So we are very good at trading. We like to trade, and one of the issues that came out of the research done by the World Economic Forum, we have a good infrastructure, and we have Nelly Smit-Kroes on the European Commission, and she stresses that we need good electronic infrastructures. So I guess we have a good electronic infrastructure with identity management, but still we need to learn what we can steal from you, your ideas. So please tell me what you learned in Denmark and you can give to us.
All right, I'll try to do that. Thank you.
Yours.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Martin Strandbygaard. I'm here today to talk to you about federation. It's basically what I do. It's what I've been doing for the past almost 10 years. It's just one way of doing identity and access management that I believe very strongly about. To start out with, I'm going to give you just a brief aside about federation. And when you talk about federation, you have to talk about identity, because when you talk federation, identity takes front, back, and center. It becomes really important. So understanding what identity is and how you can use it is very important to understanding how you can use federation to solve the kind of problems that you have. After that, I'll give you just a quick round of about 3 main points that I think are significant about federation, what it can do for you. I'll talk about how you can use it to help you improve security. I'll talk about how it can help you to improve or increase flexibility. And finally, and I think the most important one, and maybe also the most complex to talk about, is how you can reduce complexity. To start out with, I'll go through some slides. Towards the end, when I talk about improving security, improving flexibility, and reducing complexity, I'll probably switch more to the whiteboard there, go through some of the cases that we have seen in Denmark, sort of the lessons learned that we have from the customer implementations that we have made in Denmark. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, probably at any time. Otherwise, I'll just get to it. Now, to start out with, how many of you guys actually use federation? Do you know? Okay, so quite a few of you. at least know that you use Federation. Now, how many of you use it regularly? Okay, so a fair good part of you. That's good to know. Now, getting slightly more technical, maybe, how many of you know what an HTTP redirect is? Okay, some of you are still with me. That's nice to know. And even more technical, how many of you know of the tool Fiddler? Still with me? How many of you use it regularly? Okay, thank you. I just needed sort of a calibration of how technical I can become, because when you talk Federation, you can do a very high-level introduction to it, talk about the business value. You can also get really technical, talk lots about strange redirections, complexities of certificates and keys and encryption and all that. I'll try to find sort of a middle ground that caters to everyone. If you have something specific you want to ask, just feel free. I'll try to answer as best as I can here. Otherwise, I'll ask you to come by me later on. We can have a talk about it. Now, I was talking about identity, and when you talk about identity, it's really a question of who am I? That's the main question you want to ask when you talk about identity. Of course, I'm Martin Strandbygaard. I already told you that. I represent this company today. It's called Safeware. It's a Danish company. We build Federation products. If you look me up in Google Maps, you'll see that this is where I live. And you can write me on all various email addresses. Those are some of those. Those are some of the ones I'll reply to. So that's all part of my identity. It's something I say. It's something I claim. So when you talk about identity, you also have to talk about what claims we have. Now, Amazon will tell you that I've read these books. My internet provider will tell you that he provides internet for me there. And this is also part of my identity, but it's a different part. It's what others say about me. And of course, what others say about me might be more trustworthy than what I say about myself. So identity is what I say about myself and what others say about me. Now, the next big question becomes, how do I prove it? I say I'm Martin, how do I prove it? Well, when I go to work, I'll pick up my access card. And because I have this one, I can prove that I'm Martin Strandbygaard working for Safeware. So it's something I can prove. When I went to the Netherlands on this trip, I had to bring one of these. It's my passport. It says I'm a Danish citizen. Now this is the Danish government helping me prove that I'm Martin. Of course, those are something I control, and it's something I can choose to use. And if you want to get really sort of technical about it, it's also as asymmetric trust. Your passport, it scales really well. Now, compare that to how everybody's doing identity. Well, not everybody, but how a lot of people are still doing identity. Usernames and passwords, we have tons of them. Everybody has tons of them. We all hate them, but we all have a lot of them. And what it really only proves is that I'm a database entry. It doesn't prove anything else, just that I'm a record in a database. So it doesn't tell you a lot about me as a user. It doesn't tell you anything about my identity. And we want to know about the user's identities, because when we know about their identity, we can start making business processes around that. We can start automating things. We like that. So it doesn't say anything about you. And worst of all, it's like having a separate passport for every single country you go to, usernames and passwords. What Federation gives you on a really high level is it gives you a digital passport that you can bring with you when you need to go to digital properties. When you read the American press, you'll see the word digital property all over the place. It's the term they've coined for websites, and I think it's a good analogy, because things are moving more and more towards that we go to a property. We go to their digital property. And Federation can help you prove that you're you. Not just the database record, but it can actually enable us to prove that a user is who that user claims to be through some other third party. We like that. Now, I already asked this, but who already uses Federation? It turns out that a lot of people are actually using Federation already. I did some quick math. Turns out I could count to 3.5 billion users. That's quite a lot. That's about half of us. So where does all these people come from? I counted about 2/3 of the audience here using Federation, but I'm pretty sure it's more than that. In fact, I would venture a guess that every one of you is already using Federation. You aren't just thinking about it. It turns out that most of the internet security is built on Federation. When you go to Google, when you go to Facebook, when you go to Yahoo, and the list goes on, their security is all based on Federation. They aren't using username and passwords alone. They have built their entire security infrastructure around Federation. So it's a strong concept. It scales scales tremendously. And then what's it good for? Well, as I said, I do Federation. I'm very passionate about it. So Federation is my hammer, and to me everything's a nail. So I'll solve every single problem with Federation. And I'll now try to walk you through some of the cases that we have solved with Federation. Now, I already ventured there. One of the first things we wanted to solve with Federation was the problem with the usernames and passwords. We don't like those. We want to get rid of them for many different reasons. They're really annoying to manage. Users forget them. They're costly in user support. Users call up the help desk saying, I forgot my password. We want to try to address some of all these things. So we all know this. It's just not any fun. This is also actually relevant to companies, and not just on the internet. But when you have different IT systems that are based on username and passwords, you run into the let's normalize our username. We use username A in this system. We should also use the similar username in that system. And you end up running all these let's try to standardize on a single username projects. And they're always ongoing and they're never ending. So this whole thing that, user has your username, can you please use this one? The users don't like it. It's annoying to them. It's a bad user experience. And we should always strive to make systems that the users are happy about. So we want to address that. Another problem we have, not just on the internet, but also in our companies, is that we have identities all over the place. When we don't have them in a single source or where they belong, we end up having them in many different systems. And then they become really hard to manage. We no longer have just one user management process. We have one for every single system where we have to manage users. That costs a lot of money. So we have identities scattered all over the place. And it introduces another problem that invariably pops up. The same user in one system is not the same user in a different system. So you can have user account A in one system representing another user in another system. And that's obviously bad for security, and it confuses the users. So we want to try to do something about that as well. And finally, when we talk about fixing usernames and passwords, we probably can't live without passwords for a long time to come. But at least we can help the users to be able to better manage their password. When you forget your password, let's give the user a great experience around that. Many good reasons for doing it. We avoid the user calling up help desk. We allow them to continue doing their work faster. And we think we can do better than what most people are doing today. Because this is, if you have a password reset system in place, this is probably what you're doing. You're asking 10 questions to the professor. You need to get them right to be able to reset your password. And I know from my personal experiences that either the questions are too easy, so they provide no security, or they're too difficult, so it just means that I forget 10 things instead of just my password. So we think that addressing some of the issues with usernames and passwords will give you greater security. And to that end, we have implemented a number of different solutions. The one I'll talk about here is the password reset case, where we say, let's try to leverage what we know about the user to allow them to reset their password in a better way, more user-friendly way. Now, in Denmark, we have something called NemID. It's not the equivalent to your DigiD, but it's kind of similar. So I have an NemID. It's a small piece of paper I get sent from a company with a lot of one-time passwords on it. And so it's basically username password system plus one-time password written on a piece of paper. So it's kind of like your average security token that you have. You can use for two-factor authentication, but it can be used. I can use it to prove that I am Martin. So we said, well, let's leverage, since all Danish citizens have such a card, it provides a great opportunity to leverage that value and say, well, let's base our password reset on this one-time password system instead of implementing these custom systems. So what we did was we say, well, we want to make this simple. We don't like custom clients. We don't like stuff that has to be installed on the user's computer because that doesn't really fit well with bring your own device, for instance. It doesn't fit very well with mobile. It doesn't fit very well with Macs. And there are lots of reasons why you don't want yet another client on your desktop. So we say this has to be clientless. How do we do it? So we know we have. I'm going to call it NemID because that's what we use in Denmark. But you can substitute DigiD if it makes more sense. So we have these guys. Now, I also have a user. Which has to prove that he is who he claims to be. And I want to allow him to reset his password in Active Directory. Are any of you not running Active Directory? Okay, let me ask another way. Who is running Active Directory? Okay, good. Just checking. So I want to allow this guy to reset his password down here. Well, what do I do? Well, turns out the solution is actually pretty simple. We introduced a password reset website. So it's browser-based. Everything's got a browser these days. Just keep it simple, so it doesn't require anything fancy, and anything will render that. All right, check number one. We got our clientless solution. So we have a password reset solution. It of course needs to have a hook straight into Active Directory. Now, in order for the user to reset his password, he has to prove who he is, and we can actually leverage these guys to do it. So what do we need to do? Well, we need to carry that identity from NemID to this password reset application. We can't just carry an anonymous identifier. We need to carry some information about the user proven by these guys so that we can look up the user down here and then eventually ask the user to enter and re-enter a password. And to that end, we use Federation because it's built for just that purpose. So by introducing a Federation server that will take this login, translate it into a claim. I talked about claiming something I can claim. In this case, it's something they claim about me. And now all of a sudden, I have a proven claim that I can work with. When I have a proven claim about this user, I can look him up in Active Directory, and we can ask him to change his password. Problem solved very easily, much cheaper than the other solutions that we have at least looked at, where you need to roll out clients to all your desktops. They may come with a per client fee and stuff like that. No reason for all of that. And another nice thing about this is that these guys, they don't live in our property. They aren't hosted at our site. They're external. So anything related to them is externalized. The user will have to contact those. They will carry the support cost. Kind of nice. So that is at least one takeaway we have from handling passwords, is that by using external identities, we have the ability to prove who the user is, instead of going through this hassle. And once we have done that, we can have the user select a new password, clean and simple. So we think that's kind of neat. If you have any questions, just shout. Yes?
Okay. I have one question. Why don't the user uses his NemID to access the service directly?
Good question, actually. Why don't we want to integrate with NemID? Well, I'm going to talk a bit more about this when I get to the point of complexity, but it's actually a matter of keeping things simple. So this is a great opportunity. I don't just want to capitalize that for passive reset. I want to use that for many different things. I want to use it as an enabler for my HR processes. I want to allow the user to do self-service. So I have a lot of different places I want to utilize this. Now, if I did the integration directly, which I definitely could, then I would have to do a direct integration for every single application that was going to utilize it. By introducing federation, I have a single place where I can do that integration. So instead of having many integrations, I can reduce that to just one. So that's why we think that the better approach is to introduce a federation there. And actually, I can elaborate even further, because it turns out what we get from this one is our national ID. Now, as I understand it, you also have the concept of a national ID here, but very often you don't have a national ID in your Active Directory. So what do? Well, we need some way of translating that national ID to whatever you have down here. As it turns out, at least in Denmark, most everybody has their national ID in the HR system. And HR system is also another very strong component of this whole user management thing, because it knows a tremendous amount about the users. It can prove stuff about them. So we often end up having to go up here to translate that ID into whatever they have done here. And you could also do that down there. But again, we also want to leverage the information we have in the HR system for other applications as well. And so, to avoid having too many integrations to this guy, we do it through a federation server.
So, in Dutch, we zouden DigiD kunnen gebruiken. En het BSN die in de HRM-registratie zit. En dan zou je een password reset kunnen geven. Ik zie iemand schudden van dat mogen we vast niet om juridische redenen. Ik kom naar u toe. Dan hoor ik graag van welke organisatie u bent en wat uw naam is. Kees Meesters van het ministerie van Veiligheid en Justitie.
So sorry. Ik doe het in het Nederlands, omdat dat wat makkelijk. Dit is het klassieke voorbeeld van waar de Rijksdienst op dit moment mee worstelt. Het BSN heeft een doelbinding die niet toestaat dat je onder andere deze oplossingen mag gebruiken. Dus waarschijnlijk mag het in Denemarken wettelijk wel, hier mag het niet, dus vergeet het maar.
Oké, thank you, Kees. The remark is we are not allowed to use this civil social security number in this application in the Netherlands. But still, the concept of using a federation and an external source is a powerful idea. That's what we take out of these lessons. We have 2 more lessons to learn. So yes, we skip to the next lesson, Mart.
So we talked about improved security. Another thing that we think a federation is a great tool for is letting others in. Or you can say improving the flexibility of your infrastructure, making it faster to do difficult stuff. So once people start showing up with a digital identity, it becomes much easier to let them in. We know who they are. We no longer just know that they are a unique identifier. We may also know where they work, how long they worked there, in which countries they work. All these things can be communicated through Federation, through that digital token, our digital passport. And I'm sure you can just imagine that having both a unique identifier and an employer opens up a whole new set of possibilities for letting in your partners. So we say it gives you greater flexibility. And I'm going to expand a bit on this drawing because this thing about letting others in is one of the most important use cases that we cater to. It's one of the most common implementations that we do. Is that you have a big company. They probably run SharePoint because everybody runs SharePoint. And they have a lot of partners they want to share stuff with. Now, they don't want to use some Google Drive or Dropbox or whatever. They want to be in control over it. So you put a SharePoint in your DMZ and you manually create accounts for your partners, and it becomes a hassle to manage. So we want to do that better. So you have your SharePoint site. Now, in what people often end up doing is that you create an account for them manually. There, they have to call up the IT desk, or oftentimes whoever you talk to in the company will do that. Takes a long time. You don't have access when you need it. So instead, we say, well, let's federate with the partner so they can prove who their users are to us. Gives a loads of good things. For one, we can push the responsibility to that partner, so we don't have to do it ourselves. And so the partner will put up their federation server. They have a user. Now he's sitting at his desktop at work, so he's probably logged into Active Directory because a lot of people run Active Directory. Now, at least half of you raised your hand when I asked you if you know what a HTTP redirection is. Now, this all works with HTTP redirection. So the user here, whom we don't know about, he'll go to SharePoint. SharePoint will say, well, I don't know you, so please log in here. And he'll do that by sending the user with an HTTP redirection to this identity provider that will say, I still don't know you. You need to prove who you're from with your own identity provider or federation server. So the user will go to that federation server, and through AD, he will be logged in, sent back to SharePoint. But not only do we now know that he's a user down here, we also know which partner he's from, and we also know what roles he's in, or at least some of them, in AD, which means that we can automate our access management. Now, if you think identity management is hard, then you should try looking into automating access management. That's an even harder problem. Most people are just now starting at identity management. Access management is even further down the road. This allows us to do really simple access management. We just have the partner, we just ask the partner, please send us roles representing your users, and we map those in our SharePoint. And the enabler of all this is federation. And what we get here is that things like SharePoint is already prepared for it. Federating SharePoint is plug and play. SharePoint is built for it. So it's not some custom development project. It's not a new custom protocol we have to implement. It's mostly just configuration. That's nice. So that was flexibility. Letting others in. It's almost in the word. We federate with others. In this case, what we federate with is their identity resources.
Question. Who uses SharePoint? And who wants to let others in? Okay. I'm going to ask one of the municipalities. Kun je wat vertellen wat jullie met SharePoint doen en waar je anderen bij wilt hebben? En kun je misschien vertellen welke organisatie?
Ja, ik ben Mathieu de Wit en ik werk bij gemeente Doetinchem. Nou, wij werken sowieso ook met andere gemeenten samen. Maar we willen ook bepaalde delen misschien, mits dat goed geregeld kan worden uiteraard. Anderen bijvoorbeeld toegang laten voor bepaalde projecten. Maar dat kunnen dus ook bijvoorbeeld aannemers zijn die aan een bouwproject moeten meewerken. En daar willen we dus een oplossing voor hebben. Ja, en dit, voor zover ik kan horen, is dit zoiets wat daar op zou kunnen aansluiten. Maar het moet dus inderdaad wel veilig zijn. Je moet ook wel kunnen aantonen dat iemand daar toegang toe mag hebben. En je wil daar toch wel controle op blijven uitoefenen, zeg maar.
Denk je er ook kosten mee te besparen?
Nou ja, het gaat voornamelijk om het nog meer in de gaten houden van welke dingen je met elkaar deelt. Want nu worden natuurlijk heel vaak mailtjes gestuurd naar mensen. Maar ja, goed, daar gaan dus ook gegevens uit die je misschien helemaal niet eruit wil hebben. En aan de andere kant geeft het allemaal van die werkstromen, die zijn een beetje opslachtig. En het zou veel makkelijker kunnen, maar ja.
So letting in like somebody who builds a house into the municipality administration to make it more easier than sending emails and more secure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Nog vragen over dat letting others in? Anderen binnenlaten in jouw domein? Nee? Nou prima, dan gaan we naar de next lesson.
Yes.
So the lesson we learned is in Denmark they have use cases for letting others in and make it simple. Yeah, thank you.
Now, I said I wanted to cover just 3 points where I think Federation provides a lot of value. Now, the last one, the one I personally believe the most strongly about, but maybe also the most technically difficult to work with, is that it allows us to make things simpler. A big issue or a big limit with our infrastructures is that making changes is difficult, it's hard, it costs a lot of money. So this complexity means that we're slow to adapt. So the easier it is for us to implement changes, the faster we can adapt to changing business requirements. That's kind of nice, and we avoid a lot of annoying and complex and projects that we just have to go through that seemingly provides little value. So we want to make stuff simpler. Now, without Federation, if you want a lot of companies to work together, what do they end up doing? I think the use case with users on the internet is probably a good example. A user nowadays, they expect to be able to seamlessly move from one place to another. So when you're in your case management system, you want to be able to go directly to the intranet and just be logged in. You don't want to have to log in again. And we wish to allow our users to just go to a partner site and still be logged in as that same user. Now, without Federation, the only way to do that is by connecting all the different systems in many different ways. So we get what's called an end-to-end relationship. And that's just every single one of those is a direct integration point. And making stuff like that happen in real life is just hard. It's just complex. It's a big project. This is kind of is not exactly the way that identity synchronization works, but it's getting to it. You have to integrate all these different things to maybe the same HR system. We had the case there with. So how do we do that in a simpler way? Well, I think I already alluded to it with this drawing here. If a lot of people want to connect to this one, let's put in something in the middle that does the heavy lifting. So we make one integration and we can reuse that value many different places. So we do that with Federation. We allow all our applications to connect to the same federation. That essentially allows identities to flow between applications. And that's very, very powerful. So doing it that way, as compared to doing that way, is just a much nicer picture, and it enables us to do many things we couldn't do in this instance. When we do federation, if I want something else to flow down here, I just make a change up there. Whereas in this picture, if I want something down here, I have to go there and change it. I have to go there and change it. I have to go there and change it. So 3 times the work of just doing it that way. So I think the reduced complexity, that's really that's one of the biggest long-term benefits of implementing federated infrastructure. We have one client, the largest pension fund in Denmark. They are actually basing all their security on federation. We did a complete upgrade of their entire infrastructure. They have 10 federation servers running. We did a complete upgrade of their entire infrastructure and migrated 600,000 users. We had 0 downtime. Doing that with different products, different technologies, is much more difficult. So, reduce complexity. If you take away one thing today, I would like you to take away that thing. What do we do differently? Well, we do a lot of things differently. Are there any questions?
So what do you do different? I see like Facebook and OpenID and OAuth perhaps.
Yeah, so what do we do differently? Well, we have a model that allows you to fix all the small problems that eventually arise in a project. So when you have one of those, even though it looks very simple, you just do this. And do this. That kind of looks simple, but...
What's in the boxes? I can't read it.
Oh, sorry. So we have a login. We have our identity provider. So that's federation. Finally, we have an application. Doing that, you invariably want to be able to customize things to your ends and needs. And we allow a tremendous amount of flexibility in customizing things to your solution. So we don't just provide one login. We don't just provide NemID or DigiD or whatever. We have 20. We don't just allow you to connect a specific kind of applications. We support every single federation protocol that is commonly used. And we allow you to mix and match. So you can do Facebook login on one side for one website over here. While still doing NemID for a different site down here.
Do I understand that I could use DigiD with your stuff to go to an insurance company, health insurance?
Only if it's allowed. Only if it's allowed. For use with DigiD. Then yes, you could use DigiD for that.
Do you have a DigiD plugin for us?
I don't know how far it is along.
Plugin or?
Yeah, we did it on SAM too for Web.
Okay, that's true. Yeah. We actually have it running in one place. Yes.
Yeah, great. Questions, perhaps? Who is looking for making his business simpler? I just spoke to the railway, the men from the trains. What are you looking for?
Well, we have many different kinds of customers with all the same needs, I think. They all want to use our products. And we want the customer to be in charge. We want the customer to be the one who decides which identity is used. So that's a bit of the struggle we have right now. We don't want to force the customers to create an identity in our systems because they already have one.
Which kind of examples of customers do you have?
Well, everyone using a train in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
So that's about 6 million people.
Also companies? Or only citizens?
Well, let's focus on citizens at the moment. And of course, you could be an end consumer buying a train ticket, but also be a company buying tickets for many of your customers, and those can be the same roles, of course.
So you're open to federations as a concept?
Well, I think we must use federations, because otherwise we're forced to let all 6 million people in the Netherlands create an account with our system, which is madness, because everyone already has a zillion identities in other systems. So why would we force people to use our system?
Okay, thank you. So bringing down complexity because others have already their ID in place.
Well, the complexity for us is that we don't know which identity provider to use, because we cannot use DigiD, and I don't know which identity provider is. I don't know if there's a single one that all people in all of Europe have.
All of Europe, international trains.
International trains as well, yeah.
Thank you. Let me put the question. It's a double-sided question. One for you, and one for the Ministry of Economic Affairs. Richard, do you have a solution for the NS, perhaps, and together with the federation? You're from e-herkenning, e-recognition.
Well, in the Netherlands we have two systems for authentication, which are what you can call government solutions. One is the DigiD for citizens, which uses the national ID, which is a problem for non-government entities because they are not allowed to receive that number. The other solution we have is called e-recognition, that is e-herkenning in Dutch, which is originally made for companies to authenticate themselves with government organizations. But we have broadened it to business and consumer-to-business applications. So what you see now is that companies can use e-recognition to let other companies identify themselves with them, and also nowadays they can e-recognition makes it possible to authenticate consumers. And I think e-recognition is what you would call a federation, because you can use different authentication means which are provided by different providers.
Thank you, Richard. Then the other part of the question. Morten, you speak SAML. What is SAML, and how could SAML be of help in a federation? What is SAML?
Well, basically SAML is just the most prevalent industry standards among the federation protocols. So this is what everyone is basing on. I know e-herkenning, DigiD, everyone is using SAML too, at least in the Europe space. So it's the most used protocol today, but it's a very large protocol. So everyone is using it differently. And that is among the things that makes things a little more complicated. And that's why you need the federation server, basically. So rather than integrate directly with someone that is doing SAML 2, you need the federation server to make the abstraction layer to make it connect. And that's really the important part. That is also choosing a federation server that is able to handle the very different ways of talking SAML. You might, I'm somehow, sometimes I feel like SAML 2 is pretty much like the OSI protocol of the old days. I know there's some people in my age group here I can see, and you probably know about OSI from the old days before TCP/IP took over the world. So it's a very big protocol.
How does your federation help to connect all the different parties and perhaps with the government solution or the e-recognition solution? How can you be of help?
Well, basically the thing we can do is, the first thing is we're not Americans. So Americans don't understand us Europeans because we have different systems, different everything, right? It's just small countries in their point of view, so it's just like states. So what we're used to is we've actually built a federation server that is able to accommodate for all these small but very important differences. We haven't done e-herkenning, the integration to e-herkenning yet, because we haven't had a customer asking for it. We've only done it for DDD, but we're still looking forward to doing it, and that's what we've been doing in Denmark. That is, every time something else comes out that is a bit different, we just go in and accommodate for it. And believe me, if you go out and try to do that with just about any federation server, you'll be in a lot of trouble. I won't tell you exactly. There's a lot of them out there, but especially Microsoft, the only other commercial federation server which is based on Microsoft architecture besides ours is Microsoft's own. And they just went from ADFS 2 until ADFS 3. And they just took away all the liberties you had to accommodate for these things. So now you basically have something that works inside the network with Active Directory, but it really doesn't work with anything else. It can speak plain SAML 2. So if you have applications and cloud services that is clear-cut SAML 2, no problem. But when you have all these different login providers like e-herkenning and all that, that is using different parts of the protocol, you're just plain out of luck.
Okay, thank you. So a lot of complexity, and we should make it easier. You have something to add?
I was just going to round off a last one about that question. You mentioned a lot of different login methods, and I think regardless of what you choose, you'll become very happy if you go the federation route rather than integrating them directly with your application. Because what we've seen, and there's a reason why Google and Microsoft and Facebook and all those are using federation internally for their systems, because invariably you don't have just one side. You have your you have SAP, and you have something for the customers. You probably also have a CMS system, and the list goes on. Now, you want logins to all those systems. Now, if you're going to implement these login methods like Stork, which is something that's coming in the EU, and DGD, which may not be relevant in Facebook and Google and so on, if you're going to implement these login methods directly to the applications, then when you reach the point where you need to change this, you have to go to every single one of these and change it. Whereas if you implement these login methods through a federation server and then federate with your applications, you don't have to change anything on this side of the equation when these login methods change. So that's again about reducing the complexity. It gives you the freedom to add new login methods here, new ways of letting in your users, rather than every single way of letting in users is a new integration project for your business application.
But Martin, you should also tell them that basically federation servers, you're used to a paradigm where you have an Active Directory and everything is hardwired into the Active Directory. Actually, with federation, you can have several federation servers. So that's also a way of making it simpler, because you could spread the logins over several federation servers, and then you could connect them without the user knowing. So they can just redirect between each other. And basically, it's going so fast because the packages are so small they won't notice. As Martin said, well, we have the biggest pension fund in Denmark. They have, is it 6 or is it 10 federation servers? And nobody knows about it. And one of the federation servers is just a proxy, a real proxy, because another party that's also doing federation is very insistent on doing change releases and all these things. So it takes 3 months to make a change. So they just abstracted them away with a separate federation server that they never have to touch. That's making it simpler and more efficient to work. And it doesn't cost them very much.
Thank you. So we can connect federations. Looking at my watch, we have standardized time. That's no problem. So looking at the watch, 12 o'clock almost. 5 minutes for the last questions and a wrap-up. Jullie werken met federaties, jullie werken met anderen binnenlaten. Zijn er nog punten die zeggen van, hey, dit moet ik nog eens even weten? Benieuwd welke organisatie?
Gemeente Haarlem, maar dat
Haarlem.
staat los van mijn vraag. De ICT-kant wordt een stuk simpeler hiervan, maar brengt het niet een heel nieuwe laag van complexity op het juridische gebied?
So it will become more efficient on technical side, but the legal aspects, who takes care for the legal aspects? Do you have a lawyer in the room?
Legal aspects of what? Sorry.
Basically, you're right about when you're doing federation, you have some legal aspects because you're saying that you put some trust in someone else, right? But with federation, you have the opportunity to decide how much trust you actually put in the other guy. When you're not doing federation, you're actually creating users in your own store that is, there's no legal, precedent about how to do this. And you don't know when the users are leaving that, other party. So you can actually have a much better legal standing with this. But of course you need to do the paperwork. In Denmark, we've been doing this for a long time, so we have, like standards ways of doing this, doing agreements inside, especially the public space. So when two public entities have to cooperate, it's pretty much standardized, legally. And I bet that this same thing will happen in your place. But when you go and move about, get all the legal mumbo jumbo aside, you find that you have better opportunity of deciding exactly what you want to deliver to the other guy and what they're in charge of and what they're not in charge of and what you're controlling and how to actually make logging and actually making an effort to make sure that it's actually doing like you expect it to do.
Okay, thank you.
So
great. So the legal mumbo jumbo is we have to take care of it.
Sure.
But there
Always
are other municipalities like Doetinchem and DigiD is there where we can copy a lot of the ideas on legal matters. So we're not empty-handed in the Netherlands. We have a good infrastructure on legal affairs. So perhaps talk to the Ministry of Economic Affairs or Binnenlandse Zaken. So, last remark on what we have learned to wrap up. I learned that you have a long experience with federations in Denmark. You have this almost the same tradition as in the Netherlands. We can cooperate quite well, Dutch and Danish people. We understand each other quite well. In the Netherlands, you told me you see a possibility to learn how to work with your federation. And if people want to know why you should use a product, well, you could discuss it on a one-on-one meeting. We learned about password reset. You do it with NemID. We would like to do something with DigiD. You already have DigiD enabled, and you're going to enable it for e-recognition. And you get people easier in, like voor de spoorwegen, of voor het ministerie, of voor een gemeente. Makkelijker naar binnen komen. And we'll reduce complexity. So 3 lessons learned. I want to thank you for this lessons learned. And I guess if people want to ask questions to you, they're welcome at your stand. Definitely. Thank you very much, Saver, Martin.
Thank you.
Morten.